Hey guys, YouTuber100 here. Alright, now here I am to complete my reviews for the Planet of the Apes movies. Here I am with a review for War for the Planet of the Apes. So, yeah, this really was a great film. I mean, yeah, the other two of this series, like this a reboot series and stuff, is like, yeah, this is probably the best of the three. Yeah, the other two were just like good, but this one actually is, I would say, great. I mean, yeah, I just like really did like enjoy this one a lot, really. I think this one is probably definitely like the best Planet of the Apes film since the original film. I mean, yeah, I mean, and that's like really saying something. I mean, considering like all the films that there's been, and really how like none of the other films really did like well, yeah, like a lot of the other films really didn't turn out that great, especially like in the original films. I mean, yeah, the second and the third film of the original series, I mean, they were like good enough, I guess. But yeah, of course, like the three after that, I mean, you know how I felt about those, and yeah, the other two of this series, I mean, they were good films, but yeah, this one I would actually say is great. I mean, yeah, I really just did really love this film. I mean, yeah, this film just was released last summer, and yeah, it really did like critics really did like love this one a lot. I mean, they loved this out of. I mean, this was the one like with the best critical reception out of all the Planet of the Apes films ever. So yeah, critics really did love this one the most, and yeah, but as far as like it, I think like it's a toss up between this film and the original film as to which film really is the best of the Planet of the Apes films. I would probably say the original is still the best one, but yeah, this one is right behind it. I mean, yeah, this was just like a real great film and a real great way to really like close out like this story. Yeah, this is like the second part of the story that was from Battle of the Planet of the Apes. Yeah, Dawn was the first part, and then yeah, this film continued it, and yeah, this one just told it like so much better once again. So yeah, in this film it just had like a great story. It had like just it had great characters. It had great conflicts. Yeah, this really just was a great film, really. Yeah, this film was set like 2 years after the events of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and it shows how like the apes are now like in a war against like the military and stuff. And so yeah, that's basically just how this film is set. And yeah, this film really did have like a lot of elements that the original film really did. I mean, for one thing, like it did show whole like in this film like you have like the how humans are mutes now, and it also this film actually does include Nova, which in this film, like in the original film, you know how Nova was like a grown woman, and here Nova is just like a real little girl. So yeah, it's interesting that they changed up Nova like that. Yeah, and this film it also shows how like they're human. Like the military is like holding like a bunch of apes up as slaves to do work similar to how it is in the original film, how the apes have the humans like treated as slaves. So yeah, I do like how this film is really trying to like, while it is like still like retelling the story, well, the second part of the story from Battle of the Planet of the Apes, this really does also like try to really have a lot of elements of the actual original film as well. So I do like that this film really does that. And so yeah, and once again you do have like just like the remaining apes from the first two films back. Of course, like Caesar, he's still here, and we also have Maurice, he's the orangutan, and we also have Rocket and Cornelia. Yeah, basically just yeah, we do have like the recurring apes all back, and yeah, in this film it also shows that they Caesar does have the another son, Cornelius. So yeah, similar to how it was in Battle of the Planet of the Apes. So yeah, yeah. So what can I say about this film? It just is like really, really great, and I just really did like the conflict that they went through, and yeah, I really do like how this really does like send the, well, I guess like with the Caesar story arc, this really is like concludes like the Caesar story arc. So yeah, I really do like how these three films really are really just like really focusing on Caesar, and as I said before, I think like the purpose of these three films is really just to really like do the stories of the last two films of the original series justice. So yeah, as far as that goes, I really feel that these movies really did do their job and serve their purpose. So yeah, this was just a really, really great film. I would give this film 3.75 stars out of 4. I mean, it really is just a great film, and I really did enjoy watching this film a lot. I mean, it just had some really great conflicts, and yeah, the story overall, it just was told like so well, and the characters are all really good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah, this film just really does it does everything. Well, not everything. I'm not sure if I want to say everything, but yeah, it does like so much stuff really great. So yeah, it just really is a great film overall. So yeah, all right. So yeah, let me just talk about the story for this film. All right. So as I said, this film is set like 2 years after the events of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and now Caesar and his tribe are like now against the the U.S. military, which is like known as Alpha Omega, and they're just like really led. The colonel that's leading them is just really ruthless. Yes, and yeah, it also is like showing that Alpha Omega actually does have many apes that were formerly loyal to Koba. And like they're referred to derogatorily as donkeys. So yeah, that's kind of interesting that apes are referred to as donkeys. So yeah, and then like a platoon from Alpha Omega like ends up launching an attack on an ape outpost, but yeah, it ended up like failing, and there were like four soldiers, or as well as a donkey, which was a gorilla named Red, and ending up being captured by a Caesar and the apes, and and then Caesar eventually ended up releasing them, hoping that their display of mercy could show the colonel that the apes really were not savages. And yes, Caesar even told the soldiers that he's not the one who started this war and that Koba did. So he was feeling that this letting them go would show that they weren't savages. But once a Red ended up escaping, he ended up injuring a Winter, the albino gorilla. Yeah. And then Blue Eyes and Rocket eventually ended up returning from like a journey that they were on, and Blue Eyes just like reported that they ended up like finding a place across the desert which would be like really ideal for the apes, which was just like an oasis. And like a Winter was like trying to assert that they shouldn't really leave immediately, but Caesar decided that they really had to prepare here. And so then that night the colonel also ended up leading some of his soldiers to infiltrate the apes' homes, and then yeah, Blue Eyes along with Cornelia ended up being killed by the soldiers. Yeah, yeah, and then yeah, Caesar ended and then like was trying to prevent the colonel from escaping, but the colonel and was able to escape, and then the apes then like they just couldn't find Winter, and so they felt that Winter actually ended up betraying them out of fear. Until then that morning, then they ended up like journeying into safety, and then like yeah, uh, Caesar ended up leaving his youngest son Cornelius in the care of Lake, who was Blue Eyes' wife. Yeah, and then yes, Caesar also like was out for revenge and for the murder of his family. He and he was also like serving as a decoy for the other apes. And then and Rocket and also Maurice, who was like his orangutan hang advisor, as well as Luca, the gorilla lieutenant. The apes eventually like entered a village that seemed to be abandoned, and they ended up like finding a soldier who actually deserted the army. And like when Caesar found him, like he just eventually ended up like killing the soldier in self-defense. And then they eventually found a mute girl that Maurice then like ended up just befriending and adopting, and eventually like ended up naming her Nova. So yeah, like I said in this one, and yeah, they like changed up Nova. So yeah, rather than like the grown woman that she was in the original film, she like they turned her into a young girl. So which I felt that was like an interesting change. Yeah. And yeah, Maurice also ended up like giving Nova like a small rag doll, and eventually Winter was also found by them at a military camp at a beachside. Right, and he had now become a donkey, and then they they ended up confronting Winter, and Winter was just telling Caesar that the colonel ended up departing for the border to meet more soldiers, and then as Winter was like trying to call out for help, the other apes then just restrained him, and then but Caesar, in the commotion, Caesar accidentally like suffocated Winter. Yeah, and eventually like the apes ended up discovering soldiers that had ended up being shot and they were left for dead, and like they like examined a surviving soldier and it was shown that he was a mute as well, and then and out of an act of mercy, Caesar then ended up just killing him as well. Yeah, and as the apes then were like chasing after this hooded figure that stole one of their horses, they discovered that he was actually another intelligent ape from a zoo that was named Bad Ape. Yeah. And as they were like with Bad Ape, they eventually ended up like discovering that he actually knew where the border is, and then like he was hesitant, but he agreed to lead them to the border. And once they ended up reaching there, they like saw a quarantine facility, and then as they were trying to get a closer look, Luca ended up like being killed by some soldiers as he was like trying to protect Caesar because like they were like going after Caesar, and yeah, Luca and like just protected Caesar, and so yeah, Luca ended up being killed, and then yeah, after that like Caesar just was just in rage, and then yeah, he then decided to just proceed alone rather than instead of like he didn't want to like really continue to endanger any more of his allies. So yeah, Caesar then decided to just go on alone. And but yeah, Caesar also ended up learning that the Alpha Omega actually ended up like capturing his tribe, and they were like forced to build a wall without any food or water. And then eventually Caesar ended up like being captured by Red, and and then yeah, uh, Caesar was then like brought before the colonel, and then yeah, he just ended up like being forced to work with the other apes, and then yeah, he was basically like it was basically like how the apes were like treating Taylor and the other humans in the original film. So yeah, and like at one point as like Caesar was trying to inspire the other apes to stop working, then like the colonel then just like was holding Caesar at gunpoint and like just like threatening to kill Caesar if the apes didn't continue. So yeah, then like the apes then were just like continuing to do their work. And then yeah, Caesar then was just like deduced that the colonel was like barricading the facility to like block away any other military forces that are against him for like actually killing his own soldiers. Yeah. And then later on, the colonel then was just like telling Caesar that the simian flu virus actually like mutated, and yeah, a lot of like the humans that had the disease were now like mutes, and they devolved into a primitive state. So yeah, this is really like what caused the humans to now be mutes. So yeah, this actually does give like an explanation for why humans are mutes. Yeah, I can't remember any explanation actually being given in the original film why like the humans were mutes. So yeah, at least that this film does give an explanation about that. Yeah, yeah, and then yeah, then the colonel then just had a Caesar then just tortured with starvation as another way to get the other apes to work. But eventually, like Nova ended up like finding a Caesar when like the other apes were like around there, and then she saw that um yeah, she like ended up like sneaking into the facility, and then yeah, she gave Caesar food, water, as well as her rag doll. And then in order to like stop to keep Nova from being discovered, like Rocket then like just allowed himself to be captured to create a diversion. And the next day, the colonel saw Caesar was still alive, and then he ended up confiscating the doll after he found that. And Caesar and Rocket were able to work together to escape through an underground tunnel that would led out of the facility. But after they did escape, Caesar just decided to stay behind to confront the Colonel, while the facility was actually under attack by remnants of the military that were launching attacks with a bunch of stuff with like tanks, helicopters, jeeps, ground troops, and rocket launchers. So yeah, they launched like a full-scale attack on this facility. Yeah, and eventually, like Caesar ended up finding the Colonel, but he ended up like being infected by the virus because yeah, he ended up like making contact with Nova's doll, and yeah, Caesar then just like was holding a gun toward the Colonel, looking like he was gonna kill him, but he just didn't, and then he just watched the Colonel commit suicide instead. Yeah, and as Caesar then met up with the other apes, they ended up like as they were trying to escape, they ended up like being caught in a crossfire between the two armies. Then they just showed like Red watching just uncertainly, and Caesar then was just like trying to blow up a large fuel tank to take out the Alpha Omega forces from behind, but then like a preacher ended up just shooting Caesar with a crossbow. Oh yeah, and then like as it looked like Caesar was gonna actually be killed, Red just used a grenade launcher to kill Preacher, and he was able to save Caesar, but then, right after that, another soldier ended up just shooting Red dead. Yeah, but eventually, when Caesar was actually able to blow up the tank, and he was able to escape from the facility in the cascade of explosions, and then like an avalanche also was triggered, and that ended up wiping out all the military officers. So yeah, the apes were all able to escape unharmed, and then they eventually then were able to cross the desert to find the oasis that they were traveling to, and it just showed like the apes were all just celebrating their new home, and eventually like Maurice just saw the fatal wound that Caesar had, and he Maurice just told Caesar that he promised to tell Cornelius who his father was and what he did for the apes, and then it just showed Caesar then just slowly dying. And so yeah, and then yeah, it just ended with like Caesar dying and with the other apes looking on, and then yeah, that's how it ended. So yeah, so like I said, 3.75 stars out of 4. I mean, it definitely is like a really, really great film. I really did enjoy this a lot. I mean, it had a great story, it had great conflicts, the characters were all written really great. Yeah, this just really is a great film. And so, yeah, and so, like I said, I really am glad that really just these three reboot films really did like do the last two films, the story of the last two films of the original series justice. So, yeah, I just really am glad that these films really did like do tell those stories much better, even though they're really not like official remakes of the last two films of the original series. So yeah, I really am glad that these films really did serve their purpose as that. And so yeah, and yeah, there's also like now like there are like reports going on that there's like another Planet of the Apes film in talk, like now like another sequel to these films. And so, yeah, I'm not really sure, like, if they do decide to make a fourth film, I'm not really sure what they plan to do with it, because, yeah, since, like, Caesar is now dead, I'm not really sure what they plan to do. I mean, if they do another movie, will it be, like, will the focus be on Cornelius? I mean, I'm not really sure, like, what they can do next, because, I mean, are they gonna, like, kind of just, like, do, like, their own story for this, and really not have it like tell a different story, uh, do another retelling of like the stories from the original films, because I'm not really sure like what they will plan to do with another film if they make it. I really don't think another film is really needed, because like I said, I think these three films really did serve their purpose to just like do stories that were in the last two films justice, and so yeah, they did do that. I mean, I feel like the purpose of these films were really just like the purpose that X-Men Days of Future Past had. How it really was just like to rewrite the events of like everything that went wrong in the third X-Men movie, everything that was done wrong, and it just set it right. And I really feel that's kind of like the same thing that these three films purpose were, just to really just tell a better version of the stories that the last two films, the original films of the original series did. So yeah, I really do feel like that's really what these films' purposes were. So I really don't think that another film really is needed for them. I really do think that these three films have really now served their purpose, and I really don't think that another film really would be needed. But yeah, we'll just see if they actually do plan to make a fourth film of this series and what they will plan to do with it. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see that if they do it. We'll just, only time will tell if they actually will go through with this. Alright, so yeah, that's all I really have to say about it. So yeah, this does it for my review of War for the Planet of the Apes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. But before I actually end this video, now that I am now done with the Planet of the Apes reviews, I'll now talk about what I have planned next. Like, I guess now to end July, since there's only one more day of the month left, and yeah, it'll like carry over into August, which is what I always had planned. So yeah, this Friday we finally are having the release of the new Christopher Robin movie. So I figured, in honor of the Christopher Robin movie, I would just like go back and just make reviews for like various Winnie the Pooh movies, because yeah, as I told you guys a couple of years ago when I reviewed like the mini adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh is just like a real innocent thing, and yeah, I really just grew up like loving Winnie the Pooh. So yeah, just like basically I guess like through this upcoming weekend, I'll just make various reviews of just like a handful of Winnie the Pooh movies. I'm not really gonna make like reviews for like every single Winnie the Pooh film that's ever been made, because yeah, there's been a lot of them, whether it's been like direct to video and theatrically released. Yeah, there's been a lot of Winnie the Pooh movies released. So I'm just gonna like go over like a handful of Winnie the Pooh movies, really just like the ones that either I grew up with or just ones that are really the best known, like the theatrical films and just like the famous direct-to-video Winnie the Pooh film. So yeah, that's gonna be my plans next. Like, I'm just gonna like throughout the weekend, through this upcoming weekend, I'll just make reviews for a handful of Winnie the Pooh films, and then I will also like make a video to give my thoughts on the Christopher Robin movie when I go see it. So yeah, so that's gonna be coming up next. So yeah, stay tuned up next for my reviews for just a handful of Winnie the Pooh movies. All right, so yeah, that's coming up next. So yeah. So, yeah, stay tuned for that coming up next. So, yeah, thanks for watching. So, I hope you guys did enjoy this review. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.